Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, 5 Actionable Ways You Can Improve Your Business Today. These will be some tips and strategies you can use to help drive more bookings, increase your online ratings, and boost your revenue, whether you're new to the hospitality industry or if you've been doing this for a while now. But first, here's a little about me. My name is Gavin Wadsworth. I'm a hospitality researcher and content writer for ResNexus. I'm also a digital cinema graduate, which is actually going to be helpful for one of our actionable things today. And I'm very excited to present this webinar today, and I hope you get a lot of value out of it. So, the first actionable way that you can improve your business today that I'll be going over is photo and video, especially in regards to how engaging your online presence is with your property photos. So first, I'm going to go over some general photography tips, and then we'll go over the pros and cons of using your smartphone camera versus a DSLR camera. First, it's important to make sure you include both interior and exterior shots of the property. If you can show online shoppers the kind of experience they can expect with an interior and exterior photo, it's going to activate their imaginations. What I like about the left photo is that the table is set with breakfast and flowers, rather than just being totally cleared off. And I like the right photo because it shows us the patio furniture on a nice day. Both of these give me an idea of not only the quality of the property, but also the kind of relaxing stay I can expect. It's also important to make sure your photos are appropriately sized for the format. Let me show you an example. So a hero image is a website design term for an image at the top of your website that spans the entire width. And because it's so large, you want to make sure the resolution is at least 2,000 pixels wide, so you don't experience quality losses like you can see here in this example. This is what happens when your image resolution is too low for your hero image. Even though the room itself is gorgeous and the rest of the website looks good, it just comes across as unprofessional. This is called pixelization. This is what happens when you take a small image and artificially blow it up to 2,000 pixels. In other words, you're stretching out the image to make it bigger than what it's meant to be. The result is a loss of quality. Again, you want to make sure the image itself is at least 2,000 pixels wide for a hero image on your website. On the other hand, for your smaller images on your website, you actually don't want them to be 2,000 pixels. Why? Because having a lot of high-resolution photos on one page slows down the load speed, which makes Google less likely to recommend your site. These photos would probably be fine at around 640 pixels wide, because they're taking up less real estate on the layout of this page. They don't need to be massive file size photos. This next tip is super obvious, but it's worth mentioning. Declutter the area first before the shoot. For vacation rentals, where it's important to show your on-site kitchen and amenities, this is something big to watch out for a room like this. The same principle goes for different rooms for different properties, though. Take a critical eye to what the area looks like and what objects are there. Are they placed with intention, or did you just forget to take them out of the shot? However, if you removed all the clutter from this room, now it's much less distracting, but it does look pretty empty. That's why it's not just enough to remove clutter, you also want it to look homely and cozy. This is a bit of a side actionable thing you can do, but taking a closer look and updating your decor can go a long way. There, now I've got some decor to fill it out, so it doesn't look so empty. A little does go a long way. Here's another photo that looks pretty bare of decor. Those walls look massive and empty, kind of making the room seem more like a prison cell. But I actually want to focus on the lighting here. It's decently lit. You can tell what you're looking at, but all the light is coming from straight up on the ceiling. Looks like it was taken at night. That window isn't doing anything for it. If I were this property, the first thing I'd do is put something on those walls and see about replacing those nightstands with something a little more interesting and appealing. Maybe sprinkle in a few matching pieces of matching decor. But then wait until a nice cloudy day with sunlight to do the photo shoot, with lots of natural light coming in from the side. The next photography tip is to utilize background elements to add depth to the photo. This is a great example of using midground and background. The candle, flowers, and bed give us some nice midground elements, and making use of the mountains, greenery, and outdoor furniture for the background is an excellent touch. Can't you just visualize what it would be like to stay here from this one photo alone? In that same vein, foreground elements can also help to add depth to a photo. Here's a great example of foreground and midground. The foreground is the menu and breakfast tray, and the midground is the pillows and lamps. If this were me, the first thing I would experiment with is turning those lamps on for a little source of light. The natural light here is great, and I wouldn't take that away, but if those lamps have a nice yellowish orange glow, it might help add some color contrast. So just out of curiosity, I decided to search for bed and breakfasts in Portland, Oregon on Expedia to see what kinds of images showed up. I thought I'd give my first impressions of these properties based entirely on their frontline photos. This will hopefully demonstrate the importance of carefully selecting what image travelers will first see when they discover your property. So I'm going from top to bottom through each of these photos, and this is the first one. We have a muddy looking photo of a creek with some trees, though it's sort of hard to tell exactly what's going on from a distance. And that harsh sunlight creates some blown out areas on the road above, where it's pretty dark everywhere else. And it doesn't really tell me anything about the property itself or what kind of accommodations I can expect. If the nature scenery is their best attraction, I'd at least like a more clear image of it. With this next property, this is a very nice photo to start with. There's a little bit of foreground foliage, and we get a sense of the property's aesthetic with a nice 3/4 view of the exterior. Not bad. But there's no detail in the sky at all. It's totally blown out, and that's more of a nitpick, but that's one thing to consider. With this property, this first image we see is a room with some nice decor and a table setting, which I do like. But if I were to change one thing, I'd probably look at switching around the camera angle a bit. Right now, we're mostly looking at one big wall with the bed sort of lost in the corner. I'd like a bit more depth. Right now, it feels a little claustrophobic, to me anyway. Now, this property has a pretty stunning photo. That golden sunset coming through the clouds is gorgeous. And we can see the grounds as well as the property itself. This is the kind of photo you really have to get the timing right. And look at all that detail in the sky. This is why it pays off to invest in quality photos, because this immediately grabs my attention. Lastly, this one seems to consider their location one of their primary attractions, namely how close they are to downtown Dundee, hence the sign photo. Maybe that works for lots of travelers who are looking for places to stay where they can easily visit downtown Dundee. I'm not sure, but me personally, I'd like to see something about the property itself first. Now, let's take a look at camera options. In this day and age, they basically fall into two categories: DSLRs and smartphones. So, which should you use? The main benefit of smartphone cameras is the convenience. If you own a current generation smartphone, you already have a fantastic camera in your pocket at all times. Plus, you don't have to fiddle with a ton of settings to capture a pretty decent image. All you have to do is aim, hold it steady, and click. From there, transferring the media to your computer or wherever you need it is pretty straightforward. So what's the downside to using your smartphone camera? Well, a major one is actually that you don't have all those fiddly settings. These cameras are getting smarter and smarter all the time, but they don't always do exactly what you want or expect them to, and you don't have as much control. You don't have as many choices when it comes to lens, focal length, and much more. Also, if you have an older smartphone, you might not get the resolution and quality you're looking for. If you do use a smartphone for your photography, here's a few tips. First, consider using a tripod or gimbal to help stabilize the image. Second, don't use the zoom function. You lose a lot of resolution that way. Instead, if you want a closer shot of something, physically move the phone closer to the subject. Third, try not to use the flash function. It will make the lighting look a little uncanny, and you should be making use of natural light whenever possible. If you want to try and control what your phone camera is doing, some smartphones do have some ability to adjust various settings such as white balance and ISO. But if you don't know what you're doing, you probably don't want to mess with those too much. Using a more traditional camera gives you more control over the settings, and you can often achieve a much higher quality and resolution than with a smartphone camera. You can swap lenses in and out, change the f-stop, ISO, shutter speed, and a lot more. It's really fascinating when you dig in to learn more about photography, even just as a hobby, but if you don't have the time to learn it, you might end up fumbling for a while. Plus, cameras and lenses are expensive, lenses usually more so. If you do know your way around a DSLR, you probably already know these tips I'm about to share, but maybe they'll be a helpful reminder of the basics. First, if you've got a wide area to capture, or if you want to make a room look a little more spacious, break out the wide-angle lens so you can capture more of the subject. A wide-angle lens is one that's usually around 16 to 35 millimeter. If you don't want to be switching out lenses all the time, a zoom lens is a good choice. It's versatile and will allow you to change your field of view on the go. Second, and much like the smartphone, you'll want to use a tripod or gimbal. You can make the shutter speed really fast to account for some wiggling, but that imposes a limitation on you because the faster the shutter speed, the darker the image, which means you have to compensate for it in other ways. The last thing is that you'll most likely need to edit the photos in Photoshop or Lightroom or something similar to adjust the saturation, brightness, color levels, and more. You can check out online tutorials for your software of choice. If all of this sounds too intimidating or difficult, but your photos need a refresh, you might want to consider hiring a professional photographer. The going rate depends on a lot of factors, such as the photographer's level of experience and the size of your property, but in general, you can expect to pay around $150 to $500 per hour. Try and select a photographer with a portfolio that includes real estate and property photos. If it's within your budget, it might be worth it to invest in professional photography to really wow any travelers who come across your property online. Here's an example of what professional photographers are capable of. Do your photos look like this? If you pay top dollar, they could. The top properties do invest in professional photography like this. But here's the main takeaway. Your photos don't have to be perfect. Even if you don't invest hundreds or thousands of dollars for a professional photographer, you can just take a few small steps toward making better photos and improving your online presence. Every improvement counts, no matter how small. Quality photography is one of the best tools you have to stand out from the competition because most people don't put enough thought and effort into it. And if nothing else, take another look at what your customer's first photo impression of your property will be, whether it's on an OTA like Expedia or Airbnb, or on your booking engine or on your website. Try to make sure it reflects your property's unique charm and gives the viewer an idea of what it would be like to stay there. If you're a ResNexus user and haven't heard about our road trips program, that's actually a great opportunity to meet with our team and receive free professional photography for your property, as well as drone footage, weather and other factors permitting. Our road trip team goes out several times a year to meet with ResNexus users and other local businesses around the country. We usually host a dinner event as well. If you're interested in having ResNexus come and visit your area, you can let us know at sales@resnexus.com. Keep in mind that we can't visit everyone, and we can only visit an area if there's enough interest from enough properties there. That's simply because we want to meet with as many people as possible on each of our road trips. We do ask in return for this that someone put us up for the duration of the trip. Otherwise, it is totally free. Something else to look into is video content. Much more engaging to a customer than reading about amenities or even looking at photos is being able to experience your property with a professional video or virtual tour. Here's an example of a property that makes great use of video content on their website to really help people understand what this property offers. So let's take a look. So the real video for this is longer and shows other attractions like their wedding ceremony area, other cabins and lodges. There's drone footage of the property and some nature footage. This is sure to excite travelers and get their minds working. If I was looking for a place to stay in this area and saw this video, that would help me make my decision more quickly and more likely to choose this property because I can see what it would actually be like to stay there, more so than just a static image would. This looks like it was captured by a videographer who knows what they're doing and has the right equipment. I really like how much movement there is in these shots. So this is a great kind of video tour to go on your website, but let's also take a look at some social media examples that you can use to help generate interest in your property. These examples I'm going to show both have licensed music playing in the background, which I won't be able to share, but keep in mind that all you usually need for audio on these is a song that captures the correct mood you're going for. So this is an example of what a social media video post about a property could be. For me, all those sparkles they edited onto the video are a bit much, but the concept is really engaging. Rather than just looking at empty rooms, we can see someone walking through to share the experience with us. If you're comfortable being on camera, including this kind of personal touch can be a good way to make a video more interesting, to see someone actually interacting with the property. Now, this obviously has a fair amount of production and editing behind it. All the outfit changes to match the rooms, the video editing process. There's a lot that went into this short video. If that seems like too much to handle, this next example will be a little better for you. Notice in this example, the only video element happens in the first few seconds. After that, it's all still images. Again, there is licensed music, but this gives you an idea of how easy it can be to make a post like this. It can be hard to get noticed, let alone go viral on social media, but you just never know what will explode in popularity. If you wanted to do a video in this style, you could just take a single smartphone video of someone entering the front area of your property, and then edit in some of your best photos in a sequence to show off the rest of it. Then put a catchy song in the background, some attention-grabbing text about your main benefits for staying with your property, and you're set. If you wanted to get fancy with it, you could have a little bit of zoom in or out for each image, just as a little bit of movement. The thing about social media is that it doesn't necessarily drive more bookings directly from those sites. People don't usually click a booking link right away from a video like this. But it can help improve your exposure and help travelers remember your property. So they type it into Google or their OTA of choice at a later date. So it can drive more bookings in that way, but it's not necessarily something that's easy to track. So all that's to say that your mileage may vary, but if you have a really sensational property that you think could get a lot of attention online, you'd be doing yourself a favor by branching out in the social media world a bit. You've probably heard this 1,000 times by now, but online reviews are incredibly important. It's one of the main deciding factors travelers use when choosing their accommodations, and it helps your visibility on platforms like Google Travel and OTAs like Expedia and Airbnb. One of the best ways to improve your online reviews is through quality communication with your guests. It keeps you engaged in the quality of their stay, allows them to voice any concerns, questions, or requests to you, and can overall help eliminate miscommunications and frustrations. When you make it a habit for you and your staff to check in with your guests when you see them, you're sending a message that you really care about their experience. Especially if you ask the guest something specific, like asking them to name one thing that would make their stay more pleasant. That way, your people-pleasing guests have a harder time keeping quiet about issues that might have arisen, and you again reaffirm how much you care. Unfortunately, you can't be everywhere at once. You don't always have the opportunity to check in with guests in person, and emails are mostly left unread, especially when someone's probably trying to escape their inbox for a few days. If you're low on staffing, it's even harder to keep in touch with your guests. That's why the next actionable way you can improve your business today is with text messaging. So here's some data about text messages. 68% of people are more likely to buy from a business that offers convenient communication. 98% of text messages are opened. And 90% of text messages are opened within 3 seconds. This all tells us how effective texting is as a form of communication. And the same is true for me. On my smartphone, I have email notifications delivered quietly. No vibration, no sound. But text messages always alert me so I can read and respond quickly. So texting your guests is effective, but you probably don't want to use your personal number for a variety of reasons. One of them being that you probably need your staff to be able to respond to guests while you're busy or not on site. That's why a guest messaging software solution is your best bet. ResNexus provides integrated text messaging that helps save time for you and your staff with improved coordination and canned responses, and you can even set up automated promotional texts to make special offers or request online reviews. Being available to your guests to message you is just one of the benefits of integrating with a text messaging service. Another major one is the ability to send out global messages to all your on-site guests to let them know about things like special events and weather concerns. That way, you can let everyone know when it's s'mores night, or you can invite them for cocktails in the lounge, or what have you. It's important to have a system for interacting with your guests without knocking on their door and interrupting them, if they're even there at the time. I know of one property that experiences occasional power outages due to weather conditions. Because they have ResNexus text messaging, they can easily send updates to all their guests at once, which has helped them out a ton. When it comes to guest messaging, there's basically 5 phases. Pre-booking is great for when potential guests have questions about your availability or amenities. As we saw from the stat earlier, the majority of people are more likely to buy from a business that offers convenient communication. Post-booking messages are great for getting your guests excited about their upcoming stay and to help prevent trip stacking. If you're not aware, trip stacking is a trend where the traveler makes several different reservations with different properties at once, and then cancels all but one of them. They basically keep all their bases covered while they decide which property they're actually going to stay at. This can be frustrating for the property, however, since it can come with unexpected cancellations. Post-booking messaging is a great way to help prevent this. Let's show you how. Here are some tips for post-booking guest messaging. First, confirm the guest's purchase along with reservation details so the guest knows their transaction went through and you're expecting them. This is best sent immediately after the purchase. You can also use this opportunity to provide a value proposition of things to do or something else to maintain the excitement. Sometime later, probably a week or so before the guest's arrival date, another message to keep them interested is a great choice. But you don't just want to pester people to remind them without any other value, so a specific value add is a good idea. Something specific they can latch onto that has a good chance of piquing their interest. And finally, in the few days leading up to the arrival date, a special personalized offer can be a great way to start things off on the right foot. The next phase is pre-arrival. This would probably be the day or day before the arrival date, and would include things like parking information, checking in on guest preferences, reaffirming important policies, etc. After that is mid-stay. You obviously don't want to bother your guests with lots of messages during a stay where they're trying to relax, but at least one mid-stay text asking if there's anything else they need can go a long way. And finally, there's post-stay. The main benefit of this is to thank your guests and solicit more online reviews. One tried and true method is to ask the guest to rate their stay from 1 to 5 stars by responding to the message. If they reply with 5, you can have the system send them a request to rate your property and share their experience on your platform of choice. If they respond with 4 or fewer, they'll instead receive a message asking what might have improved their stay. In this way, you can qualify that the guest will leave a good review, and also you'll learn how you can improve the guest experience. Either way, you're growing as a business. And this is all automatic. This is so important because when people search for your property, they will read your reviews. Word of mouth is the best form of advertising, and reviews are the next best thing. Our third actionable way to improve your business is one we talk about a lot, but that's only because we see a lot of properties that don't do it, and that's revenue management. So let's start with what revenue management is. In a nutshell, revenue management is the application of consumer analytics to maximize profits by selling the right product to the right customer at the right time and for the right price. What revenue management isn't is simply raising your rates. If you're underpriced, that's a step in the right direction, but that's not the same as having a comprehensive pricing strategy. There are 3 main categories of revenue management: variable pricing, dynamic pricing, and yield management. Variable pricing is the practice of adjusting your rates based on factors that add value to the room or unit. Some examples of this are obvious. A room with a king-size bed obviously has more value than a room with a twin-size bed. Other factors that might add value include things like when a room is pet-friendly, has a jacuzzi instead of a tub, or has an incredible view out the window, or campsites that have RV hookups and are located near the trailhead, things like that. In other words, variable pricing is about making sure all your units are priced appropriately for the value that they provide to the guests. This may involve some thinking outside the box. People love having options to choose from, and it helps provide a more selective experience. So, what's actionable with variable pricing? Well, take a magnifying glass to all of your units. See which ones are the most popular with your guests, and see if any of them provide additional value to the guests that is not being factored into the price for that unit. Then you can compensate for the difference by changing the rate, and also make sure that you advertise the added value for that unit on the listings. Dynamic pricing is all about timing and recognizing that there's a higher demand for your availability during certain times of the week or year. Obviously, there's weekends. That's a higher commodity than weekday reservations because most people plan their trips around Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But there's also things like seasonal trends, holidays, and large events. These are calendar dates you can pretty safely predict will have a higher demand than other dates. Labor Day, Valentine's Day, and Christmas are good examples, but also think about local events. I heard of one property located near a racetrack, and they would see a huge spike in business whenever there was a big race. That's a great opportunity to adjust your rates to make more money during those times. Another aspect of dynamic pricing is encouraging guests to book longer stays with tools such as minimum nights and sliding rates. Minimum nights imposes a restriction that requires guests to book a minimum number of nights. Usually 2 is sufficient for peak seasons. Sliding rates provide a discount for longer stays. By doing both, you can attack it from both angles. ResNexus provides functionality to have minimum nights repeat during certain specific date ranges and expire after those date ranges end. And you can also select which units are affected by your minimum night rules. And finally, the third category of revenue management is yield management, which is all about adjusting your rates in direct response to supply and demand. Basically, you charge differently depending on 1, how far in advance the guest makes a reservation, and 2, your occupancy rate at the time of booking. In other words, if your property is filling up unexpectedly quickly and your dynamic pricing wasn't prepared for it, you can simply increase your rates on a sliding scale based on your occupancy. Or if you prefer, you can go the other direction and offer a discount for bookings made when your occupancy is low. Trying to do this manually would be difficult to keep up with. That's why an automated software solution like ResNexus is best. ResNexus allows you to implement special rules for yield management that will automatically adjust your rates by a percentage or a dollar amount. And here's a good rule of thumb at the bottom. When your occupancy exceeds 70%, increase your rates by 10% or around $10. That means if you suddenly get a lot of business, you're making more money for the same amount of effort. Remember that 100% occupancy also means that you're 100% busy. If this sounds a little strange or outlandish to you, or you're not sure about it yet, take a look at the following example. Travelers are already familiar with this practice. Airplane seats are a lot like room nights. They're perishable. If the plane flies with half of the seats empty, they can't go back in time to sell those seats. And guess what? They use yield management. For this flight, let's say there are 40 seats for simplicity's sake. The first 25 people to reserve their spot in the plane get a rate of $500. Over this threshold, the airline knows that this is a high-demand flight. The rates automatically increase for other seats to be filled. So the next 10 people to buy a ticket get a rate of $800. And finally, the remaining seats sell for $1,000 each. Even if you don't sell all your remaining seats at that price point, it's still a win for revenue. In this example, it's a difference of at least $3,000 without yield management, even if the plane is fully occupied at $500 per ticket. That's all to say that we're all used to this, and it's the same sort of product. Timing matters, and it always has. To wrap up this section on revenue management, I wanted to quickly go over the basics of supply and demand so you can see the ultimate objective of setting your rates appropriately. Supply and demand are tied to price. Low supply and low price means high demand. High supply and high price means low demand. Your quantity is your number of available units, and that doesn't change a whole lot unless you're making some renovations or something. So the main lever you have to play with is price. So let's try setting a price. Here we go. Let's see what happens when you price at this level. Looks like the demand is higher than the supply. If you price too low, then demand for the product will be very high, and you'll very quickly run out of supply. In other words, you've left money on the table because the customers were willing to pay more. So you're sitting here at 100% occupancy, and you're turning lots of people away. So let's try again. Okay, now we're priced too high. The supply is much higher than the demand. For a property, this looks like a lot of empty rooms. This means you're leaving money on the table because your occupancy is too low. Optimizing your pricing to make the most of supply and demand and hitting that sweet spot is called economic equilibrium. This is where you're maximizing revenue by selling the most rooms for the most money. All right, now the fourth actionable thing you can do to improve your business is offer specials and packages, or refresh and update them if you already offer them. I shared this stat in a recent webinar, but it's worth sharing again. This is from TripAdvisor about US travelers. 75% of respondents expressed the importance of seeing new places for planning trips. 71% said the same thing for having new experiences. and 69% for going out to restaurants and trying new food. This is a good reminder that travelers are looking for things to do besides just sleep in a new bed. And you can tap into this desire by offering specials and packages to potential guests. Here are just a few ideas to get your mind working. Partnering with other local businesses to offer package deals to your guests is a great way to improve your value and attract more customers. Some of these don't even require partnerships, though. If you run a boutique hotel or a bed and breakfast and you see a lot of business from couples, it's not a big leap to offer a romance package with roses, chocolates, and champagne. You could even use it as an incentive for longer stays by making it part of a special if the guest stays for at least 3 nights. If you're not sure how to get started, first figure out why your guests are coming to stay with you in the first place. Ask them questions about the reason for their stay, what activities or events they're interested in. It's not only good hosting, it's valuable intel for you and your business. One of the things that sets the ResNexus booking engine apart is that you can offer retail items, specials, and packages to your guests at every step of the booking process, including during unit selection. This shows the value the guests can add to their stay, which can both help drive more bookings and bring you additional revenue. A lot of properties offer specials and packages like these, but don't yet take advantage of sidebars so guests can see their options during room selection. This also helps encourage guests to book direct with you rather than through the OTAs. And then, of course, ResNexus also allows you to show your guests a screen with additional options to enhance their stay before they finalize the booking. And finally, the last actionable thing in this presentation that you can do to improve your business today is to make great use of powerful property management software that can help you with all those other things I talked about. If you're already a ResNexus customer, now's a great time to take another look at the tools at your disposal in the ResNexus system. There are tons of helpful features in there that might make your life a whole lot easier, but you might not even know about. Here are a few honorable mentions. Cart abandonment. So cart abandonment emails are a great tool for recapturing bookings that might have otherwise slipped through the cracks. Because sometimes shoppers forget what they were doing. You can set up automatic cart abandonment emails to go out to online shoppers who didn't finish making their booking. We have some shiny new email templates that you can make use of, and you can even see how much revenue you're making from cart abandonment in your reporting. The second tool is rate types. Rate types are a great way to appeal to more of your guests. You can use them as a way to provide cancellation flexibility options. You can offer military and senior discounts. You can provide breakfast and non-breakfast options, and a whole lot more. And it all shows up on your booking engine as a drop-down menu. This is truly a very versatile tool. And finally, travel protection is a ResNexus integration that helps you save money from last-minute cancellations due to illness, injury, or death. It's a real bummer when a guest gets sick at the last minute and can't come stay with you, for both parties. Travel protection refunds both you and the guest for approved claims and has a 99% claim approval rate. That also gives you the opportunity to rebook the room with the travel protection double dip. And the travel protection fee is paid by the guest, not your business. If you're not yet with ResNexus but thinking about switching, here are some benefits to consider. First, our software is intuitive and easy to use. If you do have a question about a tool or setting, we have a large catalog of support videos and support articles to help you along. Plus, we offer industry-leading customer support. Every ResNexus customer is assigned a hospitality business coach who is ready and willing to help you manage and grow your business. We also offer phone, email, and chat support. ResNexus also offers free setup and onboarding. We'll get you started as seamlessly as possible and train you on how to use the system. And finally, we offer a lifetime pricing guarantee. All right, let's summarize and go over the actionable things you can do today to enhance your business. First, invest in quality photography and or video content to engage online shoppers. Second, utilize guest communication tools to keep in touch before, during, and after the guest's stay. Improve your pricing strategy with revenue management tools like minimum nights and yield management. Offer specials and packages so your guests can customize their stay. And use powerful property management software to save time and money. If you enjoyed this webinar and would like to view any of our past ones, you can do so by going to our website, ResNexus.com. When you scroll to the bottom, you'll see a webinars button, which will take you to our entire library of past webinars. You can also register for upcoming webinars on this page. If you're looking for more content like this, I recommend you check out How to Improve Your Pricing Strategy with the Revenue Management for more information on that topic, or How to Get Found on Google Search and Google Travel to learn how you can optimize your online presence. And with that, we've come to the end of the webinar. Thank you all very much for your time. Now is the time for our Q&A. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the questions field, and we'll do our best to respond in the order they appear. All right, we do have a question. Someone asked, I showed TikTok as the example video for social media. Do you have to use TikTok? No, I don't think so. You can certainly use whatever platform is best, like Instagram and Facebook. I know people scroll through videos on there quite a bit. TikTok is fairly large, but no, I don't think it's necessary to use that. Even just YouTube, like with the Copper Creek example, that YouTube video was just embedded on their website, so people were able to just view that through their website. If you want to get some inspiration for things to do with social media videos, I recommend checking out various hashtags on Instagram and pages on Facebook related to travel and bed and breakfast and vacation rentals and that kind of thing to kind of get an idea of what's already out there. So let's see, I wonder if Brad can help me out with this one. Brad, this question is, can you automatically lock specific OTA bookings to make it easier to take advantage of room shuffling? Do you have any insight into that one?
Yeah, I believe that that's referring to our unit optimization, if I'm not mistaken. And unit optimization would already not include OTA reservations because you would not want to move those. If it's some other form of room shuffling, then I wouldn't be aware of that.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you.
Yeah, anything that comes through Direct Connect through ResNexus would automatically not be included in unit optimization.
All right, and I believe that is it. So thanks everyone so much for attending, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye now.